Hi, and welcome to The Working World. I'm Karen Mendez.
And I'm Jamie Lingham. Karen, I've got to say, I know we say at the start of every show about how great our guests are and how the pearls of wisdom have been amazing. Today's guest, Simon McSorley, is no exception at all. He is bang, I'll let you jump in and talk about it.
No, not at all. I mean, yeah, look, Simon, obviously, the founder and CEO of Crew Talent Advisory, and obviously has a wealth of experience in EVP, retention, recruitment, and all things, I guess, relevant to the war of talent at the moment, Jamie. I think for me, one of the most impressive things was the way that Simon was able to explain it. For me, being a mobility practitioner and not a specialist in talent, the way he simplified the message. And I think there's even a section here which actually steps you through how to do an EVP, just tips for those who need one. So for me, it was the simplicity and bringing it right back to what's really important, which is ultimately what your employees want, right?
Absolutely. And I think that the fact that, it's not a country-specific problem, and this is not a country-specific conversation. I think it goes across the whole business for your local employees, for people who you're bringing or moving around the globe. And it was just such a, you probably would have seen I was typing away furiously, all these little pearls that came along. And so, it was, another really great show. But,
I think there was certainly relevance there for organisations of all different sizes, and I did see you typing away there, Jamie. And obviously, for organisations of a medium size like yourself, there's takeaways there that everybody can benefit from.
Takeaways for days, I can tell you. Exactly. we'll jump into it. Okay. Hi, Simon. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Simon. Welcome to The Working World. How are you?
I'm brilliant. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure is all ours. Simon, we've been very keen to get you on and have a chat about EVP and the war for talent and everything that's going on for everybody at the moment. So I'm going to jump straight in for everybody waiting with bated breath to hear your answers. A lot of organisations at the moment, Simon, that employ knowledge workers who are looking to get those very employees back into their physical workspaces are looking at their EVPs. And I wondered whether you could talk to us about how important you think clearly defining the EVP will be to the success of getting those people back into the office.
Yeah, look, I think it's interesting. We're sort of in this time where people have got used to being at home. They've got used to a certain rhythm of working, particularly, as you say, knowledge workers. This work from home hybrid thing has been sort of forced upon us for the last few years. So I think it's really easy for employers to forget the needs of their employees, and quite often what we see is people focusing on the needs of the business. We want to get people back together. We want to, we often see this dialogue around, reconnecting creativity and collaboration, and those things are great, but they can still happen remotely or in a hybrid manner. I think the biggest challenge that businesses face is when they try to recreate the in-office work experience in a remote setting. They're two different things. When you're fully remote, you kind of lose this what we call this non-transactional dialogue that teams have. You're in the kitchen making a cup of coffee and you see Joan from accounts and you're talking about what you did at the weekends. You kind of lose that. And I think it's that people actually miss, not necessarily the working together. I think it's this non-transactional kind of dialogue. When you're working remotely, most of the meetings you have are about work. They're very transactional. And I think that can become really tiring because you have to be focused in a Zoom meeting just like we are now. So to try and force people to get back to the office when there's a reticence to get back on public transport and potentially get exposed to things, doing the commute, upsetting the rhythms that everyone's got into. I think it's really challenging. I think there's a danger of diluting the EVP and the goodwill that some businesses have built up over the last couple of years as they've struggled to get everybody comfortable working remotely, by then doing a complete 360 and trying to get everybody to come back to work. I think that presents real challenges for some businesses. So I think, to your point around EVP, I think, understanding what it is your employees want and their experience, their lived experience of work, that is the EVP. So how do you fashion something that works for everybody, and balance the need of the business or the desire of the business to want to come back into the office with the desire of some of your teams to want to have choices and be hybrid.
Simon, it's funny how you say about people being used to being on Zoom. I remember not so long ago turning up to a meeting and there's 4 of us in the meeting, or 5 of us in the meeting actually, and we're so used to all being on the Zoom and we're all in the boardroom together. And I've got to say, it felt really awkward, right? Like, it was like, wow, I'm not hiding behind my computer. Yeah. You're sort of here. It was a very strange experience, but I suppose it's like anything, right? It's sort of the new, but you sort of back into it, and then it's sort of the old new type thing. Yeah. So it's okay. But I'm curious to see, to get your thoughts of what you're seeing as far as incentives or enticements to get people out, back into the office. Because as you said, you've got to sort of have the competing needs of the individual and the business. Yeah. And what we're finding is that you've got your early adopters who couldn't wait to get back to the office, and then you're getting your laggards who are sort of, as you said, they're happy in their little zone there. So what are you finding employers actually doing to help facilitate that?
I think we're sort of seeing 3 distinct camps. We're seeing businesses who were, and I use the term traditional because it's probably the politest I can find, more traditional businesses where leadership is probably a bit more command and control. So very directive work, very linear work. You see those businesses trying to mandate people returning to work, and they're going to see some challenges there with attrition. So I think that's one camp. The other camp is, hey, look, we've been doing this for 2 years. We've been forced to work remotely. You know what? We're all figuring it out. We all kind of like it. We're just going totally remote from here on in. And people are making that work. So we're seeing, in salary packages, allowances for home offices, for getting your home office set up. If you need a sit-stand desk, you need some ergonomics, then get that. So an allowance for that sort of thing. We're seeing, things like there's a platform called Perks, PIRKX.com, where self-select benefits, and I can send you the link. So self-select benefits where employees can have a choice of the benefits that they want, some that work really well remotely. And instead of having benefits mandated to them, you get this, and this, you might have a menu of 15 benefits and you get to pick 7 that work for you. So these are really accommodating to the individual needs and wants of what can be a different sort of makeup in your employee sort of roster. So that's the second camp. And then I think, probably the most common is the third, where businesses have gone, we're all kind of accepting that hybrid is the new normal. We're all sort of comfortable with a bit of balance, a few days in the office, collaborating, meeting team members, having some of that non-transactional dialogue, but then a couple of days a week back at home, deep working, getting on with delivering things. We're kind of comfortable with that now. So they're sort of the 3 camps. I think from an EVP perspective, I think probably the majority, and I don't have any hard numbers to back it up, but I think the majority of people that we speak to who are job seekers, who are in candidate market, are asking about hybrid options. I think very few are truly looking for totally remote work. There's a few that are, but I think the vast majority of people are looking for hybrid. So I think we all value the human connection, but we also then want the freedom to be able to sort of work at home and get stuff done when we need to. So I think those businesses that, from an EVP perspective, those businesses that recognize that the majority of people are kind of wanting this hybrid work scenario, are finding ways to accommodate that. And I think it's no longer the business is dictating, unless you're prepared to toe the line and conform to our requirements, then you don't have a job here. It's the business saying, what do you want as a workforce? We value you, we want to keep you. How do we accommodate what you all want? It's a tricky thing for businesses to do. But I think we're kind of figuring it out. That was a long answer to a short question. I'm very sorry.
No,
That was good.
And
That's great.
yeah, it also led me to wonder about, each of, I guess, those cancers you referred to them out of the command control, fully remote and then hybrid in the middle. Do you have a sense around, the retention or the attrition rates around each of those, or is it is it too early to see which approach is working better? And I guess to what I further think to that is each of those approaches probably more suitable to certain industries other than like knowledge workers versus boots on the ground, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, look, I anecdotally, I think the overwhelming desire from most knowledge workers that we deal with day to day is the hybrid. There's a few, and again, I couldn't give you a firm number, but off the top of my head, probably to maybe 15-20% who want to be fully remote. And I think the people, the businesses that are really trying to get people back into the office, into the workplace, I shouldn't say the office, into the workplace. Hospitality, clearly, so restaurants, hotels, construction, those sorts of blue collar type workplaces absolutely need to get people back on site, so to speak. But in that knowledge worker space, I think the overwhelming emphasis is on the hybrid.
So with the hybrid, Simon, I mean, are you finding that the companies are actually saying, all right, this is your day in here, this is, is it specific, or are you finding that they're putting that back on the employee, saying, you know what, Simon, you wake up, you didn't feel like coming to work, that's great. Or, I don't know, just wondering what your experience is. And I suppose to Karen's earlier point, are you seeing any sort of successes or failures in these two approaches?
Yeah. So I think getting teams being self-autonomous is the ultimate outcome that you want, where teams can self-organize and they're autonomous in how they get work delivered. So they've all got targets. We need to get, so in the software space, we need to get this thing built within 4 weeks. We've got a 4-week sprint to get this thing built. But we've all got lives outside of work, and we're trying to juggle this hybrid thing. People are always going to get sick. People are always going to go down with flu. All the day-to-day things that happen. It's called life. Those things would happen if we were working remotely or not. So I think they just get more pronounced when someone's not in the office, because if those people aren't there in the office, then you work around it. But if they're not there when remotely, it's kind of this different experience. So again, to my point, trying to recreate the in-office experience, but in remote settings is really challenging. Yeah. Exactly. But I think that so self-driven autonomous teams that are working towards getting things delivered is the nirvana that probably most of these businesses are going towards. I think there's this thing with working remotely or working in a hybrid fashion, is the responsibility is on the employee as much as it is on the employer. If you want the freedom of remote working, the freedom of hybrid working, well, there's a responsibility on you as the employee as well to get your stuff done, to get your work done. You want the freedom of not having to turn up and clock on at 8:30. Then the responsibility is on you to make it work. So how we communicate, asynchronous communication on things like Slack, is really, really important. So the quality of your communication, rather than a conversation you might have across the desk, might actually be a detailed document that you hand over to someone who's picking up some work, the next phase of delivery. So, again, that's I suppose that highlights my point of trying to replicate the in-office experience in out-of-office. Communication is different. More asynchronous communication that needs to be probably more succinct and to the point and very, very clear. I need you to do X, Y, Z. Rather than, hey, can you fix that file? No, not that one, the other one.
No, not that one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Simon, I guess that, for those organisations that, or, HR professionals that are watching this and thinking, I need to revisit our EVP, or, let's design one now that we haven't had one in place before. What would be your recommendations, just given everything we've just talked about? What would be your recommendation for the top 3 focus points around that document, or that that EVP to look like?
So I think it's important to remember what an EVP is. So, we talk about it as, your EVP are the components of your company's work experience that your employees value the most. And I always like saying that twice. They're the components of your company's work experience that your employees value the most. So the lived experience they're having of working for you. So if you're wanting somewhere to start, like how do we revisit or actually start off with an EVP? I think it's got to be well researched. It can't be HR driven. It can't be HR's opinion of what the work experience is. It can't be the CEO's version of what the work experience is. So a good place to start is get a working group together. So if you had 5 major departments, you have finance, sales, distribution, and manufacturing, whatever it is, you get a workshop happening with representatives from all of those departments together, and you get them agreed on what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to get a really fair representation and an authentic view of what are the things that are important to our staff. So these can be group interviews, they can be one-on-one interviews, they can be workshops where you get people together, they could be Zoom calls. So a workshop that's representing everybody in the business, agree on what you're trying to achieve, the methods that you're going to do that research, the questions that you're going to ask. So, what are the best things about working here? What are the things you don't like? If you were the CEO, what would you change? These sorts of questions, really uncover things, and different settings are going to work potentially for different types of workers as well. Some people may not be comfortable talking about this stuff in front of everybody else. Maybe they're a one-on-one discussion. Some groups might be more vocal if they're in a group setting. So your working group probably needs to sort of sit and figure that out. So I think you get those together, you synthesize all these findings that you pull together from these different groups. You'll find some common themes. The language, the words might be different, but the theme is the same. And then you can really sort of start building out a view of what are the things that are important that our people value the most about working here that make this a great place to work, and then how do you build them?
You just talking about you mentioned the sort of silent minority, obviously, and I love this whole process. It is a process, right? Like it sounds like a lengthy consultative process, which I love as well. I think that I just really enjoy the concept of making, if you have people who participate in actually creating the solution, they always say that they're the people who actually make sure that it's a success. Yep. So you mentioned the silent minority, though, that aren't the vocal ones and aren't the loud ones. And when you sort of miss them, how do you present the end plan or the pre-end plan, and how do you get a sign off on that, or do you go through that sign off process as well? Because I think that you could, as you said before, you could have a few of the vocal people leading it. This is what I want, and someone's like, okay, I'll just go with it. But how do you actually loop back around to make sure that it is that everybody's voice is heard?
Yeah. So I mean, the in-person interviews are one thing. You could have a simple Google form that you email everybody and ask them to complete, so people can do it by themselves. It doesn't have to be a group discussion. Some ideas. So, but you bring all those findings together, you synthesize those. That's very good consultant speak. You find the common themes, then you present it back to the business. So you can present it, but have the working groups for those relevant teams presenting it back to them. Work through it. What was missed. If one group, if your finance team, of 100 people, for example, if they unanimously said, but you've forgotten this thing, then something's been missed that's really important to them. You could then show that then back to another group. So you might do one group at a time, and this thing evolves, and then you're getting this really unbiased view. So you're collecting this data from, so synchronously, so together in groups, asynchronously in Google Forms, where they could be anonymous, they could be named, anyway, it doesn't matter, but just get the data back from people. So a lot of this stuff is just communication. So, but you're working. So going back to the beginning, you get your working group together. They're then going out to their respective departments, telling them this is what we're going to be doing. This is how we're going to be doing it. Is everybody comfortable with this? Any questions? Any suggestions? Some people might say, what if we all just, took a vote in the lunchroom or something, whatever it is. you've got to get the workforce engaged before you do it. You don't just turn up and say, hey, by the way, we're doing a bit of a survey. Mind if I talk to you with your clipboard? So give them plenty of notice, gather your data. Like you could, depending on the size of your workforce, that could literally be a couple of weeks worth of work. If you're going hard on it, bring that back together, synthesize that, show it back to your teams. We like doing it individually to different groups, because then you get this really unbiased view.
Yeah.
You show then that back to your leadership group. These are the real things that our people value. You shouldn't be getting pushback on, well, that's BS, this one's no good, because again, it's not the leadership's opinion, it's the workforce's opinion. And then how do you build on those? And then that's the next sort of conversation.
That's the light bulb moment for me, right? Like as you're saying, it's the leadership team. They're not leading this at all. You know what I mean? This has got to be, and this is where I suppose it's use your 2 ears to listen as opposed to your 1 mouth to talk. No, I mean, it's great.
The data speaks for itself. If 90% of it, keep picking on finance, if 90% of your finance team say these are the 3 reasons why we love working here, then it's probably reasonable to assume that if you're going to be hiring more finance people, those things that your team love about working are the things that you should be talking about to attract those finance people that you're trying to hire. Because they're probably going to like those things too. And if they don't, then they're probably not the right hire for you. So you're trying to hire the people for whom those things also resonate. And that's how you build team, and you build culture that's built around the things that we all value.
No, I'm seriously writing as you're talking, Simon. I know we're going to get a recording of it, but there's just so many little, gold nuggets dropping off the back of your cart here. I'm just collecting.
I mean, when we try and distill this stuff really simply, I mean, I think we're in danger of EVP becoming this really sort of mystical thing, and it's not. It's simplistic. It's listening to your people. Like, why do people love working there? What do you need to get better at as an employer? What do employees love? And they're the stories you should be telling. So employer branding becomes how you speak about those things and how you portray those things that your people love about working there. So EVP and employer brand slightly different. Your EVP are these things that this lived experience, and the brand is just how you speak about those things, how you promote that.
I do want to pick your brain about branding in a minute, but just while you're talking there, the process that you're talking about is an internal one. And I wonder whether you see, or whether it's potentially good best practice to look outside at external benchmarking to see what competitors are doing as far as, what they're hearing from their employees. Is external feedback into that process recommended, or is that just, am I way off base there?
I don't think it hurts understanding what your direct competitors are doing and what they're talking about. I mean, if your talent team are telling you you're continuously missing out on new hires to insert company name, and they're a direct competitor of yours, then maybe you want to understand why that is. It might just be that you don't communicate what you do or your value proposition well enough. We did a whole bunch of research, and I can share a link, but we did a whole bunch of research where we went to, we very simplistically ran a search of technology companies in Melbourne on Crunchbase, and we went to the first 250 companies' websites and had a look at the benefits they offer. And it was pretty grim reading. I can tell you that only 32% of them had details around their benefits or their EVP. So companies could have some great benefits internally, but you don't know that until you turn up.
They're often hidden, way after even potentially the interview stage. You don't find that out. Absolutely.
So we some of the clients we work with, we talk about build a candidate FAQ. Your talent team are fielding these questions, and your hiring managers are fielding these questions from potential employees. What about this? What about that? Do you offer health insurance? You could make an FAQ and have it on your careers page. Every time you get asked a new question, just have the answer there. Make it really easy for the people that you're trying to attract to find out the information about you that they want to know. Candidate research is at an all-time high. It's really easy to find out information about a potential business. And in the same way that your website is a front door for sales to your business, your careers page is a front door to your business for hiring. So if you're not talking about the things that are important to the people that you're trying to hire, then you're potentially missing a trick. So a lot of careers pages talk about why the company thinks it's so good. You know, we'd love to be flattered. Yeah, we sell this many widgets. We've got this many offices. We've got this many employees. People don't care. Yeah, and again, I think it ties into remembering why people move jobs. People move jobs for them, not for us as employers.
What's in it for me? Absolutely.
Yeah. There's very few people waking up tomorrow morning going to go, geez, I wonder what it's like to help XYZ company sell more widgets. Thought that'd be a good job. Yeah, no one's doing it. They're just not. You know, people move jobs for more pay, the promotion prospects, being closer to home, having hybrid work, getting a day a week at home, whatever it might be. They're very personal reasons of why people move jobs. So why not use your careers page as the place where you share as much information to potential new employees to find out if you might be a good fit for them, instead of interviewing a whole bunch of people who apply because they don't know, they're taking a punt, and you burn time interviewing people who aren't aligned to your EVP and your culture and what you're trying to build.
So just say to them, hey, listen, check the my careers page. If none of it resonates with you, please don't apply.
You could find a politer way of saying it, but yes.
I like everything you're doing. You click the button, bang, here's the application. I'm not too sure. See you later. Come back later. You know what? It's a funny thing. It's a little thing, but when you sort of said health insurance, I just had a little bit of an internal chuckle, because being obviously Australian, you think that we haven't traditionally done this. You always think of it as something that American businesses do. I know this is a little bit off track, but I'm going to run with it anyway. Are you finding Australian companies offering health insurance?
I can tell you from the research that we did, 6% of businesses talk about offering health insurance on their careers pages. But you probably wouldn't be surprised if I told you that it's a conversation that comes up more often now when you consider the state of the world at the moment. It's something that's becoming more prevalent.
It's amazing. So just on the communication side of things, obviously you have your own careers page on your website.
Yeah.
What other initiatives are you seeing companies taking to communicate their EVP? I've noticed a lot of companies on LinkedIn will have their company banner. I mean, besides being personal sort of business page, they've still got the company banner behind them, or some sort of thing to do with the company. What other things are you seeing that's becoming more prevalent?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of businesses starting to think more about distribution. So to use a marketing term, with distribution, so the production is the way we pull together all the information about a business. So that could be your careers page, it could be LinkedIn business pages, whatever it might be, videos. With videos, we've all become over the last few years a lot more comfortable with lo-fi video content. Instagram, Facebook. We're really comfortable with someone holding a phone and talking to the phone. So that kind of content is actually a lot more acceptable now. So from a production perspective, we've done work, and people can go to our YouTube page. You can see videos of me interviewing a head of product for a technology company just on a call like this, talking about the new role we're hiring, what's someone going to do, what their first 3 months look like, what's the ideal person for this role. It's really lo-fi like this. And you put that up on YouTube, you attach it to a job ad, and that's some great quality content. And the reason for that is because it's so authentic, it's genuine. Potential applicants can actually see the person they're going to be working with, their potential new manager. Do I like this person? Does he talk about things that are important to me? Could I see myself working with them? Yes, no. Like this ability to self-regulate in or out, self-determine whether in or out, going into the process. Give people that option. But coming back to your question, so distribution, so highly consumable content across multiple social channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So again, depending on what your target demographic is, TikTok might be your absolute best channel. If you're hiring in the hospo space and you need young workers to come and be waitresses or waiters, TikTok might well be the best channel for you. Discord. Discord is a website originally where people who are gamers would go and they talk about games that they're playing, and they'd have these long conversations, but it's sort of then evolved into a place where tech people talk about technology things. So we were on a whole bunch of Discord servers, and we pop job related content into those. Slack, we use Slack internally for comms, but there are public Slack channels who have job boards in them, and you can pop content into those. So there's literally endless. We like spreadsheets here. We've got a spreadsheet of literally thousands of, we call them channels, that you can distribute job content across. So so production and distribution is a key part of disseminating your EVP. So it's the right conversation with the right people in the right place.
At the right time.
I remember seeing a guy, exactly what you talked about, a guy walking through his office in Sydney, and he was doing a sort of, self video, and he's saying, well, we've got jobs here, and this is where you'll be working, and these are the type of team. It was actually really cool. It was at the first blush, it was a little bit corny, but then I thought, no, that's actually pretty cool. It's talk about putting yourself out there, right?
Yeah.
It's simple but effective. Simon, do you have any thoughts on successful methods internally? I mean, I guess for a lot of us, sometimes, you're in your role, you got your head down, you look up 5 years later and you're like, oh, where am I? What am I doing? What's the next opportunities for me? We just spoke about methods of kind of getting those opportunities out externally, but internally, do you think organizations often do such a proactive job in doing it and advertising internally and promoting and therefore retaining the people that they have?
Yeah, so I think retention is probably most talent teams' sort of number one challenge at the moment. Particularly in the tech space, the sheer volume of roles out there means that whether you like it or not, all your staff are getting approached by recruiters left, right, and centre. So retention then becomes the number one challenge. So I think there's a couple of things. Coming back to EVP, I think being able to demonstrate what career progression looks like. There's a tech company in Poland called NetGuru. Again, I can share the link. Who on their website show career progression for software engineers as they start out as interns, juniors, mid-levels, seniors, directors, and tech leads. And in that career progression, they talk about, this is a salary range you can expect to get paid. These are your responsibilities. This is what you can get. This is what we're asking from you. And it's really clearly laid out. So if you were someone who was looking for a home where you could stay for a long time and get some career progression and grow, like, you'd naturally be attracted to that. Like that would make you think, at the very least, this company's thought about these things. It's obviously top of mind. It's something that's important to them. If it's important to them and it's important to me, this potentially could be a good fit. So that's, I think, one way of cracking this challenge. I think, to your question, do companies do a good enough job of promoting roles internally? I think internal mobility is challenging. Is potentially challenging in the knowledge worker space, because you're potentially asking someone to leave a degree or a qualified job to go and cross train into something else. Possible, but how quickly does it take? How quickly can that person start delivering what they need to when they're learning a complete new skill set? Yeah, there's transferable skills, and there's some businesses that run transferable skill matrices, one of those two, to facilitate those things. So coming back to your question, I think it's mixed. I see some businesses, probably more like government departments, go through the motions of, we have to advertise it internally to show probity and fairness to everyone. We're also advertising externally. I think some businesses see that as like it's a box we've got to check to say we've done it, rather than having the proper discussions. And why would we risk losing someone who's clearly smart, loves our business, just because they want to have a career change? How do we accommodate them to stay internally? So this internal mobility piece is an interesting one, kind of challenging, but again, that probably needs dedicated people to run it internally. It's not something you do on the side as, job as, HR. That's probably dedicated function of people figuring out how to do that. And then you probably need the workforce size to be able to justify having that headcount in. So.
Yeah, Simon, just sort of going into the proactive recruitment space.
Mhm.
I mean, I know we certainly do it. A lot of companies are doing it, proactively approaching people we know in the industry who are working for competitors who we like the look of and got a good experience. And then I think it's naive for us to think that it's not happening to us, that people aren't approaching our team. I sort of feel like that's a bit of an elephant, or it has traditionally been a bit of an elephant in the room. But I'm sort of also feeling on a personal level that maybe this is the time to start discussing it, with the team and really bring it out here. Say, hey, we know that you're going to be approached. Have you got any thoughts on or experiences with how companies would actually start to bring that into the discussions? Because I think it should be something that's out in the spotlight, that people don't just pretend is not happening.
Yeah. Yes, I think I agree. I think there's a couple of things. I think there's the macro level and then the micro level. So I think the macro level, coming back to the EVP at the beginning of this conversation, what are the reasons that people love working here, and how do you give more of that? So if you're creating an environment that people want to stay, where they feel valued, the work they do, they enjoy, they're rewarded fairly, there's benefits that suit them. So the macro level stuff, take care of that. And then I think at the micro level, at the team level, your line managers should be understanding the things that are important to your individual team members. So, we did some work a while ago with a company here in Melbourne, and they had some retention challenges, and it turned out that one of the line managers hadn't done a one-on-one with his team for, I think, about 5 months. And you get into understanding why, and the response was, well, I had nothing to talk to them about. And then, so I think there's this lack of recognition that one-on-ones aren't for you as a line manager, they're for your team. They're for your team to have the conversations of the things that are bothering them, what's going on at home, the work challenges that they're constantly coming up against, the roadblocks that are preventing them from delivering the things they want to deliver. And your job as a leader is to remove roadblocks, to help them do these things. That's your job. So if, when people leave or resign, if it's suddenly a big surprise, something's missing somewhere. There's either a lack of communication at a team level. So, are your leaders close enough to your people? And is your overall offering to your staff, do you know that that's the stuff that's keeping them? So, if you're genuinely surprised when people are leaving, that's probably a good light bulb moment to go, right, we probably need to sort of make some change here because we're missing something.
Yeah. And what do you think on DISC profiling? It's sort of, the one size fits all approach seems to be out the window.
Yeah.
As far as how I'm going to deal with the blanket approach to my team. And obviously I'm hearing a lot more about DISC profiling, and would you do that sort of level, that depth of investigation as to what the drivers are with your existing team? Is it just for new people who come in?
Yeah. So I have a mixed relationship with profiling. I think it's great as a practice to understand your people, but if your team leaders, your managers then aren't implementing the things that come out of that to help support those team members, then it's kind of pointless. You're kind of putting it all on the employee as well. He or she was this kind of person. Yeah.
So you're saying more the sort of that those personal one-on-one catch-ups are probably going to be just as efficient rather than having a computer generated, a profile of you.
I mean, you can have them both. They're not mutually exclusive. But if you're going to do one, then you need to be solid with the other.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And then you also, you get that reluctant group too, who are not comfortable for either personal reasons or cultural reasons or a number of reasons to share that information. Even when often, it's there might be surveys that come out that are, anonymous, and people are still can be quite cautious around completing those things.
Yeah, and I was just going to say as well, so I think that then ties into the quality of the leadership training that you're doing. Quite often people get promoted because they're good at whatever their job is. So, you're really good at that, so you should be a manager. They're two different things. Being technically competent and being a leader of people, they don't necessarily flow that. So sales is a really good example. Jim sells $1 million worth of this a year. He's really good at sales. He's going to be a great sales manager. It doesn't necessarily flow. So, are your leaders? Do your leaders lead with empathy? Do they understand people? Will they sit and listen, or are they looking at their clock going, I've got to go and do that deal because then I make some commission. So leadership coaching, leadership training, to stay close to your people, to prevent attrition, so you're not having to constantly spend money on hiring. This is all interconnected. And you know what? It's all communication. It's all people. Yeah. One of our leading value in our business is start with kindness. Every conversation, every interaction with people, whether it's internally or externally, starts somewhere. Yeah. And we think that's the best place to start.
Yeah, I think like one of the key things that Simon and I've taken away from our discussion today is especially when you're looking to either retain or recruit people and defining your EVP is around understanding. I think you may have coined it, and sorry if I'm misquoting you, but desire of your employees, what makes them happy, what makes them stay, what makes them come to work virtually or on site every day, rather than what the business pillars are. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of the key things that you pointed out is the one size fits all solution around capturing that information. I think at the start of this year there were lots of organisations that were sending out surveys to their people to say, look, what gets you coming in the office? Is it a foosball table? Is it free lunch? What is it? I think what you're kind of alluding to here or saying is that those one-on-one conversations with leaders to employees are the most effective and direct manner of obtaining that information. And then I guess the responsibility of the manager is then to feed that up to the relevant caretakers of that experience for then implementing a plan to further grow and retain their staff. Is that a pretty fair summation?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a combination of that, and then all the stuff that we talked about. So some surveying, some synchronous, some asynchronous surveying to gather that data. But if your leaders aren't connected to the teams that they lead and the people that they lead, their careers are, those people's careers are in their leaders' hands, right? So if you're not connected to those people, then something's going to go missing.
Yeah, my feel on that, Simon, is I think that everybody's busy, but what are you busy with? And are you actually, and as a leader, I think, obviously investing the time in people, and to your point, if you've got people who are just getting up and leaving you and that's a bit of a shock, you've probably missed that really important component of leadership, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes we overcomplicate all of this. People want to feel valued, respected, well rewarded, well paid for the work they do. So how do you figure out what your team's version of well rewarded, well paid, respected, and treated fairly is? But we all have our own version of that. So how do you get this collective view from your business of these are the things that make up those components, this lived experience, and then how do we deliver that? It's the method of getting there. It can be time intensive. It needs input. Like someone's got to make it happen. It won't just happen itself. You'll just see people leaving your business, and you'll spend more money on replacing them. This cycle will go on, and you're going to get attrition. Like every business pretty much has attrition of some kind. Like it happens. But I think we overcomplicate some of this stuff. Really, we're all relatively basic. We're all pretty much the same. Do work that's particularly in the knowledge workspace. Do work that we get well rewarded for, get respected, get treated fairly, feel like we're valued, feel like we're listened to. It's not too much to ask, I don't think.
No, exactly. Simon, I just think that, it's interesting when we, Karen and I started off with the working world, our goal was to provide benefit to one person or one company. And, then we'd be satisfied we've done enough. I've got to say from today, you probably said I've been typing away. I've been trying not to. I'm just like, that's a good gem. I want to keep that one. That's a good gem. I'm gonna bank that one. And I think that, like a lot of what you've said is so on point. And I think, there's obviously things that at a surface level, I think you conceptually understand, but really hearing you talking about it and how it's actually impacting businesses has just been amazing. So I'd really like to thank you for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for, someone like myself who is so heavily ingrained in international mobility, who dabbles in a little bit of this space, working with my colleagues in talent in the various areas. It can get quite convoluted in my head anyway, and maybe that's just me, but thank you for explaining it. And I think you're right. I think we do overcomplicate it. Yeah, and the way you've explained that has been really helpful for me. So hopefully a lot of the other mobility practitioners as well watching will benefit from that. So yeah, thank you personally from my community.
You're welcome. Thank you. I think, you know, humans are really good at complicating things. You know, we're really good at overcooking things, overthinking them, and then letting them become bigger than they really are.
Yeah. It sounds like my 11-year-old, sorry, this morning, we were talking about school camp, and, you know, my wife, Penny, went in to speak to his teacher, and he said, Mum, you're overcomplicating it. Don't make it a bigger deal than it needs to be. And I just love that, you know, from an 11-year-old kid having a crack at his mum. I just thought, to your point, you know, I think you're bang on.
Yeah.
All right, Simon, thanks so much, and just keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
No worries.